Evening, my fellow human beings. Dion Harper here. No secret, I'm in the metadata world on behalf of all our future loved ones as yet to come. As I tend to say, it's my firm belief that they'll be deserving a fair go when it comes to how they spend their time on this finite nature planet that we're residing on. And in so many ways, that's on us, as in our generations, my fellow human beings. When we say we do things for our children and then their children, etc., we're going to have to do the math on that one, is my opinion. And that's a big component of why I'm online. Said it from day one, a dozen plus years ago. We need to assess our path into the future. What's our bigger pictures, sort of thing. So yeah, that's who I represent. Video format. I'm going to test. I can already see my eyes with my glasses. It's not quite right, so I'm going to have to work on the lighting and whatnot. It's not my, forte, recording videos, but I'll work on that. This is just a basic test run. I'll upload it any which way, read how it pans out, because I'm just saying hello. I won't get too serious this evening. It's more of an introduction. I'm back again, so to speak. Test, like I said. Dion Harper, as I mentioned, heading towards 60 now. I'm a Kiwi by birth. I reside in Melbourne, Australia. I'm not a citizen. I'm a permanent resident. If I could be a citizen or a dual New Zealand Australian citizen, I would be. Not really viable at the moment because of a couple of scenarios that played out in 2015, 2017. That stuff's on in the metadata world. A snippet of the road travelled. Look for that chat if you're looking for anything to do with why I cannot be a dual citizen. Moving on. Heading towards 60, Kiwi citizen, Kiwi by birth. Who I represent. I was watching the news earlier. Not good, but not getting into that for now. Just some basics. Where I reside at this current point in time, Australia, Melbourne. Where I used to reside at, New Zealand. They're both very multicultural based societies, communities. Everywhere I look, there's pretty much, since childhood, most cultures, most personal faiths, they're all there. And I've never had an issue with it. And I've never seen a problem with it. Admittedly, it seems to be changing these days, but that's not so much because it's wrong. It's because the dynamics changing these days. We're looking at a lot more protectionism type mindsets kicking in these days. Dare I say authoritarian sort of stuff. So we're looking inwards. And, can we say that it was to put the dots together? I mean, seriously, to put the dots together in regards to the mechanism that we choose to live by, the system, the economic system that we choose to live by, was it really going to pan out any other way? I mean, is it a system that encourages us to work together towards a common ground? Or is it again, dare I say, apartheid, divide and conquer, take what you can get, step on each other as we go sort of scenario? So hence the protectionism approach that's sort of kicking in these days, even here, even in New Zealand. Was it unexpected? It wasn't unexpected for me, and I said as much when I first landed online a dozen plus years ago. I said that we've got a couple of, quote me if I'm wrong, because I can go backwards and find the information. I said back then we've got but a couple of political cycles to go, and then this type of mindset is going to start kicking in. So we need to be prepared. So I've done the plot along thing, and a few spanners in the works came into play, as in the 2015-2017 dynamics that I speak of. Slowed things down a lot. So I potentially could have been a little bit further at this point in time, but it's neither a here nor there sort of dynamic at the moment. The situation as we are here, but it wasn't like we shouldn't have seen it coming, because we should have seen it coming. In my opinion, it's just pretty straightforward. The dots were there to see and put together. But here we are. Protectionism's kicking in across the globe. The mechanism we live by, which is the capitalism economic system, which is by design a growth-based system, and we reside on a finite nature planet. And I live in Melbourne, Australia, multicultural, very multicultural, as I mentioned. Cultures, personal faith, it's all there, and I've never really had a problem with it. In fact, I've liked it, as I mentioned. And me, the type of person I am, I tend to, wherever I'm going, walking down the street, shopping centre, whatever, I tend to, nod, how you going, a bit of a smile, and if a discussion kicks off from there, then all good. But otherwise, generally speaking, what's come back at me 99.99999% of the time is a nod and a bit of a smile. As in, for all the cultures, all the multi-faiths that are here, or all the personal faiths, I should say, that are here. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a breathing issue and my medications are playing up on me, so, is what it is. I don't mind, so for all the cultures and personal faiths that are here, it's been good with me. I cannot complain, and I'd go as far as say I think it's a very good thing. It's there's got to be a lot of diversity in there for it to work, so to speak. It's not the same, but in my mind, it's sort of, we can go there if we want to, if we really have to. It's sort of like the massive range of diversity that we have on this planet in regards to all the different forms of life and everything. It works, but if you take that away and we become a like a monoculture sort of world, it's not going to work. You ever walk through a monoculture forest? It doesn't really work well. Or maybe if you want to build a house or chop trees down to make some money in some way, but as far as supporting life, a couple of life forms in there, you'll always find a couple of examples of life in any monocultural forest or whatever, but there's not a lot of diversity there. It's just the way it is. And in my mind, I tend to look at it in the same, long story, but I tend to look at it in the same way with human beings. I like that there's a lot of diversity there in regards to our cultures and personal faiths. It works, excuse me. I'll work on my glasses thing. I could go like that, but truth is I've got a pretty bad neck problem, so I'm going to have to work this out. That's all right for this chat, doesn't matter. So here I am, and I live in a part of the world, and I came from a part of the world which is not far away from here, but where it's like that, multicultural, and yeah, it's slipping a bit these days, like I said, because of the inward-looking approach that we've got going on, but it's still there. The fundamentals are still there. We could still potentially rein it in and draw on all the good components and sort of educate away over time and negotiation and communication and talking with each other, etc., etc. We could sort of work that stuff out of it, because it wasn't, it was always there, but when I was a child, it wasn't so much there, so to speak. It was here and there, you'd find an example of it. It's more common these days, but that's because we've let slide as far as our global community and sort of the authoritarian, inward-looking protectionism approach that we've got going on everywhere. It's becoming a bit of a trend, if you want to look at it like that. It's creeping in here as well, but it's not a done deal, not even close. We live in an age where we've got this technology, internet, etc., etc. It's not like I have to get on a push bike and ride 20 miles to get to a landline when I was a kid, or when we only had 2 TV channels that shut down at midnight. If we want to communicate with each other in this day and age, it's possible. So we've got all the medium, the platforms, etc., etc., etc. Excuse the hands, I tend to do that. It's not a done deal as far as, it's slipped a little bit here with the multicultural side of things, but we could bring it all back and make it all work again, and not only that, we could expand it outwards on a global level. So there's that aspect to where I live and where I was born. Another aspect is it's a relatively large area as far as the whole of Australia. Very low population compared to that area. Funny, a lot of people used to say to me online when I first got online, well, you can fit another 50 million people there, sort of thing. And, I'd walk through the dynamics of what's here, as in deserts, forests, rainforests. It wouldn't be viable to even double the population that we have currently, let alone put another 50 million or whatever here. It's just not viable. But in the here and now, I mean, it's give or take, quite a few million have been added. It's like New Zealand when I came over here initially in the late 80s. A million has been added to the population, give or take, since when I lived in New Zealand. So it's growing. But here in Australia, it's grown a lot as well, but not enough to the degree that there's not enough resources here to feed the population, as in food, energy, infrastructure, vital infrastructure, all of it. We could not only do that, but we could expand outwards in regards to how we share what the resources that are here, comparative to our population and the land mass side of things. So there's options there, and it's not to say that we're not doing that already. It's the why are we doing it side of things that is a bit of an issue. It's all based on the short term. We're seeking out profit margin based outcomes at the moment. Give or take, it's basically what it is. The economic system that we lived on. What is its core value objective? What was it designed to do? So yeah, it's pretty straightforward stuff. We can do the nuts and bolts, methodology level, do the math. You'll have to excuse my breathing. I've started a new medication today. I'm over it, so I hope you folk put it to the side. This is Dion. It is what it is. He's having a breathing issue. I'm having actually a good day. My doctor's got me on heavy duty medication at the moment. But anyway, back to this, the land mass, the population, low population. We could actually, it wouldn't be easy to achieve. We'd have to have an all-in globally at this point, because we'd have to have an all-in discussion, but we could share the resources beyond what the population needs in regards to the rest of the world. And why we share it, but we'd all have to have that. And to have that chat, we're talking about, well, any localised constitution. Off the top of my head, any localised constitution, what percentage of the population of any given country would it take to overturn a constitution? 80, 90%, give or take. That's a pretty low sort of thing. It's up there. So we're talking about a very serious discussion in order to bring a place into, like Australia, into the mix, like I've just said, as in we're not sharing it for profit margin based outcomes, but we're doing it for bigger pictures side of things. And if we've reached that point, then logic tells me that we're close to reaching that point everywhere else as well, because we're all, as a global community, having that discussion. So at that point, that's what I call point B in regards to why I'm in the metadata world, which is we need to sit down and we need to have a totally transparent, all-in discussion about where we're heading as a global community. All our cultures, all our personal faiths, the lot. It has to be factored in, and it has to be done on long term. What's our long term objective? And when it comes to why I'm online, which is what I call, and this is not to say that's where we're heading, but logically speaking, we should land in the vicinity in regards to, I call it the democratically based GMS equation, which is in short form a totally transparent, totally education and equality based, totally sustainable global co-op, a global mission statement written for all, by all. So we need to sit down, to put that aside just for the moment, we need to sit down. If we were going to change the dynamic of it all regards to the land mass and the population here and resources and personal face and where are we heading, etc., we need to sit down and have that discussion and figure out where we're heading as a global community. So all in, totally transparent, all options on the table, all things need to be factored in. Where are we heading as a global community? And when it comes to the GMS, like to circle back, I personally only work in 100-year blocks, logically speaking. I won't do anything less. It's just the way it is, and we can do the dance, and but I'll logically keep coming back to it. It's give or take. We're talking about 3 generations worth of us. Children, parents, grandparents, sort of thing. It can't be a short-term objective. We need to have things in place so that each generation can pass it on to the next generation, and it's a part of the learning education process, the lot. We can't do it in 10-year blocks, for instance. We definitely cannot do it in like 4-year political cycle blocks like we're currently doing. It's just not feasible from my perspective. I mean, we can talk about it like we've been doing decades, and where are we? We're staring down the barrel of a mass extinction level event scenario, aren't we? And have a look at us, through all our learner behaviour, stuck in the mud, internal problems. It's just, my fellow human beings, I mean, what's all that about? If we're going to circle back around and say it's about our children, we do what we do for our children, and then theirs, etc., etc. I mean, sometimes I struggle with World War One, World War Two, for instance. I mean, I look at them as like they should have been learning curves for us. They should have been, okay, we had a bit of a scare, back to earth sort of thing. Well, where are we? What's our long-term objective? But, we didn't seem to do that. We sort of calmed down after the Second World War and sort of found a bit of a common ground there. Organisations were we got things in place to try and keep that middle ground and to keep it calm, but because of the mechanism that we've chosen to live by, the economic system, dare I say it, divide and conquer, each to their own, step on each other as we go, sort of that process, plus the type of species we are, because as good as we are, I believe there's goodness in the bulk of us, the majority of us. Circle the Wagons chat, if you have a listen to that online, I've discussed that sort of stuff. But I believe that the bulk of us, we mean no ill will to each other, no harm. We just want to get on. Most of us like communicating with each other. We're not a sort of a seclusion type of species. We like to interact with each other. So we need to sort of there's potential there, there's room there for us to sort of drag it all in and have this discussion, going back to, about our long-term objectives as a global community. So that's kind of GMS equation side of things, and if not that, then I was always going to get online and read our climate change problems anyway. But what I would like to see happen over the next few years, if it doesn't happen, it's just the way it is. But I'm a realist. I'm not, as far as Dion's going to get what he wants online. So I've never thought of it like that way. It's another way I look at it as the journey or the destination. At the end of the day, push comes to shove, I'm going to have to look back on my life, and well, that's what it was about. And I know who I am, that when I look back, when my time comes, I'll quickly assess my life and go, yeah, it didn't work out, but I tried. So, yep, bring it on, so to speak. I'm trying to get as many years as I can with this whole breathing thing, and I'll figure it out, up to me. But back to, where are we heading, my fellow human beings? What's our bigger picture as a global community? And please don't be trying to tell me that it is what it is and this is our bigger picture, because that's not a bigger picture to me. That's a revolving door stuck in the mud, learning behaviour sort of thing. And a bit of arrogance and a bit of, the way some people are presenting bigger pictures to us at the moment. And I'm talking influential folk that are sort of guiding us into the future, so to speak. It's, so there is an aspect of, there's a small percentage of us that sort of they're not willing to play the game as such, as in regards to we all communicate and negotiate our way to middle grounds and sort of figure our way into the future together, so to speak. But as I mentioned, the circle of the wagons chat, and if we can somehow sit down and get to somewhere like I said, a point B, where we're looking at all our constitutions and localised democracies, etc., and we've landed on that's it. We're going to try together. We're going to try to find a different path into the future, and that's why I jumped online from day one. Because I knew I was playing the long game. I always have played the long game with anything I do in life, and sort of the long game for me is what's our long-term objective as a global community. Unfortunately, a dozen years ago when I jumped online, we weren't even close to ready to what I'm talking about, the subject matter that what I'm talking about. Back when I first jumped online, I was like, yeah, what are you talking about, sort of deal. And it'll still be that way, but it's irrelevant to me. Like I said, I do believe that a big portion of us do want to change our trajectory, do it a different way, sort of thing. But being the, how would you say it, how would I have said it, being the close to born and bred consumers that we are, we're taught, we've learned that the possessions that we have or want to acquire, that's what it's all about. So on the other side of that coin, you know, you start talking about alternatives and different ways to go into the future. Everybody gets, oh, you know, I don't want to lose my house or my investment portfolio. Or I've got 3 cars there. I can't just have one or none, depending on what the logistics side of things, well, not dictates, but as we do the math and works out, you know, either we'll all be in a car each, or we'll all be on a push bike each, or we'll be on, you know, public transport, and we'll be making it tighter because, you know, it's a logistics, acquisition, distribution sort of equation. You know, if we're going to be compatible with this finite nature planet that we reside on, global community, the logistics side of things has to be knuckled out. Preferably, I would like to see us, you know, e-bikes, public transport, trains, buses, more efficient ways to fuel these systems that we have in place, etc., etc., etc. I don't think it's viable for us to all have vehicles anymore, etc., etc. Multiple houses, you know, blah blah blah. You know, most people I know here, they wouldn't even consider parting with, and most people I know do have multiple homes here, and they wouldn't consider it. But the climate change is coming, so we're going to have to either consider alternatives, or we're going to have to bear the brunt, the weight of what's ahead of us. And as I said before, a mass extinction level event scenario, pretty serious stuff. There's no avoiding it at the end of the day. I've got to admit, we've done a pretty good job of avoiding it to this point in time, but we're not going to, that's those days are nearly over. I realise a lot of us don't think that that's how it is, but we're at tipping points with the environmental issues that we have going on, food corridors, all the vital infrastructure. We're going to start losing a lot of it as we go, and if we're going to rebuild vital infrastructure, whether it be food corridors or structures that we reside in or get us from A to B, etc., vital infrastructure, it's going to take more resources from Earth. So the more we take, the more our tipping points are going to kick in, etc., etc. So we really are at a crossroads in regards to how we proceed into the future. As in, we'll plod along and try and address our ways in regards to, with each generation that passes by, we'll both make our global community a little bit more compatible with Earth and each other, get on with each other better for that matter. And as each generation passes by, we're going to help Earth heal just that little bit as we go, and that's the truth of it. You know, it's not a pristine planet anymore. When I was a kid, I grew up, you know, Auckland area in New Zealand, but I was always near to the ocean, the forest, etc., etc. I'd always find nature very close to me. So I grew up in the bush, so to speak. Or by the time I was, not that my parents were, I was a bit sneaky that way, but by the time I was 12, 14 years old, you could pretty much throw me in the bush and I'd survive. because that's what was around me and that's what I loved doing as a kid. I had my head in the National Geographic as very young, etc., etc. As soon as I could get out on my own, I sort of head for the bush, so to speak. I was a bit of a hermit, and so just had a couple of buddies, and instead of hanging out with big groups of people, I'd go bush, so to speak. So, but it's not that way these days in Auckland, where I grew up in Auckland. It's just a city. It's just suburb upon suburb. There is no bush, so we don't know any better than the consumerism way. Most kids these days, they wouldn't even know how to survive without a supermarket being down the street. They'd be done within a couple of days, sort of thing. It's the same here in Melbourne, where I reside at now. In Melbourne, it used to be a semi-rural area. In actual fact, I built I used to work with precast panels. I built the servo down here, down the road, about 25 years ago. And when I built that, I had to drive from inner city. It was like a 25-minute country drive to get to this little country town, and then it was all country all the way outwards from here on. These days, the gap from inner city to here is just suburbs, after one suburb after another, and going outwards, they're already starting to develop it, and they call it progress apparently. It's like I had when I studied conservation and land management back in the day, or turn of the century. As you know, I'm nearly heading towards 40, 35 sort of thing. I actually went back to school. I had neck back problems. Long story, drunk driver T-boned me. But yeah, I went back to school as an adult student and studied conservation and land management. I did quite well actually. I was tentatively offered a job teaching before I even left. But yeah, around the back of me there's a botanical gardens, 400 acres, give or take. So I did a lot of work in there in regards to southern brown bandicoot, koalas, etc., etc., etc. But particularly southern brown bandicoot. I was heavily into GPS side of things when I was studying. And being me, they actually gave me something called the Eddie McGuire Award at school because I had my fingers in the pie of everything, and I guess that's how they looked at it back then. But that's how it was with me. I set up a environmental group on campus at school, and I got involved in these botanical gardens around the back here, and so I know it quite well. But back then, like I said, it was all semi-rural, and that was standing there on its own. They could have expanded outwards, but what they did was they built houses right up to the fence. Really, they little basically a little gravel road between the fence and the houses. They call a buffer zone, if you can call it that. But I would have preferred they added on 400 acres. I said I would have preferred they added on another couple of thousand acres and expanded outwards. Not the case. But saying that, where I reside here now and they're building outwards, even though inwards is all suburbs, this is actually a floodplains area. Like I'm about a metre and a half off the ground here, so I'm all right. And I've seen some, it's going to get dodgy in the future with some floods around here is all I'll say. But I'm about a metre and a half off the ground in this residency. But most other people around here that live in new homes, etc., etc., they built on concrete slabs, didn't they? That's going to be a problem into the future. So not only going outwards could we rehabilitate all the what is currently farmland, the marshlands sort of all got absorbed by farmland years ago, very valuable soil, so to speak. But like I said, this is all floodplains. There's going to be problems in the future, so this point B I'm talking about, we'd need to reassess in what we do as we're going, logistics, acquisition, distribution. As climate change kicks in, certain things happen, we'll start losing infrastructure, food corridors, etc. Sadly, by my calculations, a lot of these properties going inwards to inner city wise, they're going to be lost as the environmental factor kicks in. So at that point, we're going to have to assess things like, are we going to, for the sake of, well, those people own those homes and those properties, they have to be compensated, etc., etc. Regardless of whether they like it or not, if the majority of us have come to this is what we're doing, we're all in the same boat as such. Instead of rebuilding a lot of those houses, I mean, obviously we're going to relocate and make sure everybody fits into the same picture, as in we're a global community working together into the future. But would we necessarily rebuild those 5,000 houses, say, that just got wiped out with the floods. And sure as I just spoke the sentence, they'll probably get wiped out again a few years after that. So is it viable to take more resources out of Earth for that sole purpose of rebuilding those houses because of the mechanism we live by and the fact that we're close to born and bred consumers, and part of that process is we do not want to part with our possessions, whether it be 5 phones and a couple of laptops or 20 houses. It's all in the same equation to me. And if 5,000 houses get wiped out, then really why would we rebuild them? Yeah, they all have to be factored in as such. We're all in the GMS equation side of things anyway, we're all equals. That's how I see us as people. And yeah, sure, there are things we have to factor in, but that'll be a part of the process as we go. As in, at the end of the day, a very small percentage of us aren't good people. It's just the truth of it. I've come across a number in my life. I could tell you some stories, serious stuff. And in actual fact, the more recent chat that I've put online, I discussed a court case that I was involved in. A very bad person. So there is that side of things, but we'd have to talk about that as we go, as in the small percentage of us, what are we going to do with that side of things? But that's another story. In the here and now, this is where we're at. And I've rattled on a bit here, but this is sort of just, I'm sort of moving, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm sort of moving my head every now and then, etc. I'm trying to figure out with my neck and glasses while I'm chatting away, etc., 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 for the next video chat. But this is more or less just an introductory video chat. There'll be a lot more. I'll possibly do a lot more interacting via I could quite easily name it, platform that I land at quite a bit. It's definitely on the cards, but it's hard to explain. For me to interact on that level, I'm pretty full on. It's like, if you want to bark up that tree, we'll bark up that tree. But let's not just stop there. You wanted to talk about it, so let's talk about it. And it gets quite serious. So I don't know. I've been assessing it for a number of years. I've considered starting up a few interactive sort of discussions, but people kind of have to get used to me. So it's sort of a process. And then getting back to the point B in regards to why I'm online. If we get to that point, whether it be the GMS equation or not, if we get to a point like that, how I would like folk to see me is I'm not on the front lines as such in regards to whatever discussion we have re how we proceed into the future. With me, I would like it to be where I'm more of a consultant. If you have a question or you want a bit of advice based on my thought patterns and how I see things, etc., you're welcome to approach me, and I'll jump in and go, right, what's going on? What are we talking about? What do we need to knuckle out, sort of thing. And that's where I kind of would like to fit in at that point in time, because I've done a lot of years, 12, 14, 15 years online, heading towards 60, got some breathing issues going on, plus I think I'm a little bit hot-headed to be on the front lines as such. I'm old school sort of thing, not punch up sort of stuff, but I'm, right, hey, you want to bark up that tree, discussion wise, let's bark up that tree sort of thing. I don't know if that's a sort of, right time, right place sort of thing, but not all the time. It might be, okay, we need Dion in here, let's get his advice sort of thing, but not all the time up front. It just wouldn't pan out, is how my mind sees it. So excuse the hands in that. I'm actually doing all right. I would have been usually like this, and sort of that's how I sort of work in life. But I can't really do that in the video format, can I? But anyway, just at 34 minutes. Introductory sort of chat. We're a subspecies of mammal. We reside on a finite nature planet. Name's Dion Harper. This is where I reside at. This is why I'm online, who I represent. Where are we heading? I'll leave it there. I'm getting a bit toey. I might sort of dig in and say, I'll start another video chat basically, and I'll do it in this is what I'm saying, I'm a bit hot-headed. You've got to watch me, I don't want to jump online on a platform, for instance, after all these years and start stirring it up, because I will. I mean, back in the early days, I remember when the first year I was online, I'm talking, very early days, and people used to approach me a lot more in their regards to don't like him, sort of because I was a threat, sort of thing, because I was, communist, etc. I used to get a lot of that sort of stuff. Got to get rid of that guy, sort of thing. And I'm full on. I'll be, oh mate, what's going on? Yeah, all right, you having a bad day, mate? You want to talk about it? Don't worry about the threat. All good, mate. And I'll push. I want to talk about it, mate. All good, mate. Don't worry about it. Let's talk. And I'll bark up that tree intentionally. Right place, right time, sort of thing. Like I said, it's back in the day. I used to throw the bait out and get a bite and sort of rein it in, and sort of, because I didn't want to fly under the radar back then. But that's not necessarily how it should be when it comes to me and the role I play in regards to the online thing. So anyway, leave it there. Don't mind me if it looks like I sort of went there, went here, sort of thing. It's really not that way. Once you get a few more of us involved, and if we can get to that point, and beyond me just having a excuse the hands, a video chat side of things, I'll slow right down. What are we doing? What do we need to do? Where are we heading, sort of thing. But not if I'm the front man, sort of thing, as in I'm up front, because I'll fire up. It's just my nature, so to speak. I'm learning. I'm getting better at it. I wouldn't have gotten this far online if I hadn't learnt to get better at it, because I was like a bull in a china shop when I first got online, and that included, back in the day, I welcomed a lot of folk online, and I just railroaded through that process. I wasn't too interested if I'd be there the next day or whatever. It was just the way it was, and it was going to get done, and it did get done. But I'm kind of lucky that, and I'm very appreciative, really, that side of things in regards to I'm still online and still participating in regards to what's going on around our climate change problems and our internal problems, for that matter. I'm very grateful with that side of things, because I'm fully aware that I was like a bull in a china shop back then, and I was trying to, it was like a learning curve for me. I come from this old school full-on sort of side of things out here to this metadata world. Okay, calm it down, sort of, okay, how does it work? Sort of, I had to learn. There was a lot of learning curves involved. But here we are now, and this is what's going on. But here we are now is still, I fully admit it, I'm still a little bit hot-headed. Back to the point B side of things, what role would I like to play? Consultant, bit of advice, etc, etc, etc. Anyway, I'll cut myself off there, go make myself a cup of tea. It's the time, it's getting on in the evening. Might watch a documentary about about Earth and all its wonders, its natural wonders. I might call it a day. Doc's got me on this medication, so I'm breathing a little bit better. Usually at this time of night, it's getting pretty bad for me. I've got a CK enzyme sort of thing. It messes with muscles around my heart, around my diaphragm, that sort of stuff. So it can be a bit problematic. But on this evening, not too bad. So I think I'll sit back and watch a documentary about Earth and all its natural wonders. All right, I'll leave it there. I wouldn't overrate the chatty side of me. If we go any further than this and it proceeds, and I'll start breaking out the logic with different components, cultures, personal faiths, population is a big one. If we get further and further in, I'll mellow out, sort of thing, and hopefully we'll proceed forward and land in a better place in regards to how we're proceeding or how we're moving as a global community. Regards, Dion. Peace to you and all, including all future loved ones as yet to come. Gone.